Let us not dawdle, for there are grudges to settle, and new entries in the Dammer's Cron to right!
Howdy, howdy! Sudevil here, and welcome to a replay featuring the Dwarfs versus the High Elves, featuring zachbsain. He says, zachbsain sent me a bunch of Dowie battles, so I have a lot of casting to do. He has a bunch of greenskin fights. I'm really looking forward to casting. I wanted to go over this one first because I really have been looking at this matchup, and this is what my coach or worker boss and I did in our Dwarf training lesson 3 and 4, and I really like Zach's build. Now, he has one little sneaky thing here, miners with blasting charges, really specifically to go in and around or go after artillery or something like that as the game progresses. For his front line, now, this is something Umaze does. He has 5 Dwarf Warriors with great weapons. So Umaze has a front line of Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, and he has hammers in his back line. The worker boss uses 6 Longbeards, just regular Longbeards. There are other ways to do it. It's hard to say which is the best. We'll watch how this goes. The interesting feature of this army, I think, is not the 2 Iron Drakes. I think Iron Drakes are very, very strong in this to combat nobles on chariots. It is the 2 Thunders. I think I have 3 Iron Drakes in my build, and that's the same as Umaze, the same as Worker Boss, and zachbsain has 2, but he has support from Thunders, who are also very good, and they do have that extra range. He has in his backline to help protect everything a group of Slayers and the Dragonback Slayers, which are very, very strong. And for his leadership, I mean, this is the Dowie leadership structure. It is a Rune Lord with the Rune of Wrath and Rune, and the Runesmith with the Rune of Wrath and Rune, and the Hammer of Karak draws for that 50-second hex of minus 44 melee attack and minus 25% weapon damage. I mean, you shut down any unit in the game for almost a minute. And in the backline, this is a really nice way of deploying, I think, is he's got the Goblobber here with a group of just miners, base miners on top of them to help defend them. And there's a reason he's got this, because of the way he's going to deploy and manage this army. And he also has a group of cannons with some miners on. Now, for the High Elf army, has some features you're going to see really in most High Elf armies. It has 2 nobles on chariots. This is pretty much the standard against the Dowie army, along with Alariel the Radiant, and she has her heal kit with the Star of Avalorn for that 27-second massive heal. Arcane Conduit for the improved power recharge rate and improved power reserves. Does have Earthblood for the heal. Faw's Protection for plus 27 melee defense and 30 armor. Very cheap spell, and that's probably so we can get Life Bloom off, which triggers when you cast a spell, replenishes the hit points of everyone on the map. Also has martial prowess, and is just on a horse, though. I never do understand why an elf will put Alarian on a horse against the Dowie, but some elf player is going to have to tell me why they do that. I don't understand it at all. There's got to be a reason, though, because she can outrun any dwarf as it is. But anyways, in the far vanguard does have one group of Illyrian Reavers to come and really, that's what the Illyrian Reavers are for, is for artillery and backline pressure. The standard 5 white lines of trace, they're really, really good in this matchup. This is probably, I don't know if it is their strongest matchup, but it's got to be one of them, because they do have that ability that gives them 30% missile resistance, and they are sort of far apart, so they're really good at getting into their Dowie front lines fairly reliably, and they only cost 800, so you can bring lots of them, and they kick the crap out of all Dowie infantry short of hammers. He also has the 3 groups of spearmen. So 2 for the front, they got the silver shields, they're just going to take some shots as they go in, and 1 group of spearmen to stay back and protect the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Now, this High Elf player, actually, this is a good idea, I suppose, has obviously been vanguarded by dwarfs at some point, because he keeps these spearmen with this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and only someone who has had a Dowie Vanguard deploy with Rangers or something would do that. So really interesting to see that deployment. He does have 2 groups of archers, obviously just for Slayers. That's what they're there to deal with. and he has a group of silver helms in the background. They are a bit heavier of cav, 90 armor, and that's that. So away we'll go. We'll start the battle, and right away zachbsain is going to go after this noble with one of his cannons, and you can see there he's going to give the order. Yep, he's going after this noble with one of his cannons, and he is going to go after the eagle claw bolt thrower with his gobblobber. Now this is a good game for just a good gameplay, but it's an interesting game to watch. How the gobblobber is going to stand up versus the eagle claw bolt thrower. So we're going to get to watch how that plays out. Gobblobber versus eagle claw bolt thrower in this matchup, and the cannon is switched over to the silver helms, which is actually a very good target. Cannon is anti-large. Silver helms have 90 armor, very nice, and you're going to do a ton of damage. Just look at that. They killed 6 models in one volley there. Very, very good. And away we go. Now, right away, the High Elf player is going to try and get into the sides with both of his nobles, but look at the damage. One volley from the Iron Drakes and one volley from the Thunders, and he's got the Rune of Wrath and Ruin to slow him down. Unbelievable how much damage these guys are doing. I'll try to get in there, but these, like, God, Iron Drakes are so good against chariots. They are the best answer Dow we have against chariots. You can see they're just, this noble's coming in and trying to get some damage done, and the other noble has the Rune of Wrath and Ruin on to try and get him slowed down. But you can see here comes another volley from the Thunders. Now they don't do nearly as much damage, but really they just sort of do good poke damage and they have good range. And you're going to see he's going to turn around. He is going to start to shatter, and here comes another volley from these Iron Drakes. Absolutely beautiful. We're going to see this guy is just taking a ton of damage from the Iron Drakes as they come in. Beautiful. And away we go. 2 volleys from the Iron Drakes with Trollhammer torpedoes and pressure from the Thunders. The Slayers didn't even get there, and the Dwarf Warriors did get a little damage, and that is one noble gone. This other noble is under some pressure from the Dragonback Slayers. He was down to like 14 speed. These Trollhammer torpedoes are shooting into the front line, and these Silver Helms are kind of going around the outside. Now, here comes the charge onto this cannon. You're going to see, this is, I'm actually impressed. You see the Illyrian Reavers come in, and this really does make a difference. These miners are in there taking some damage for the cannons, but this cannon is actually going to try and get off the cannon, come around, and then come back on while we chase the Illyrian Reavers away. The Gobblobber is still firing away, hasn't done a whole lot to the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. This noble is taking some damage, and he's trying to get away. In come the Silver Helms. This is really not where the Silver Helms want to be. I see they wanted to get to the Iron Drakes, but they've got into the Dragonback Slayers. Very, very bad choice. But right now, the front line is held up, but it is, you know, these White Lions of Trace do a ton of damage. You know, here actually looks pretty good on this side, and he's come around to bring these Dwarf Warriors so they can come around and do a bit of a rear charge, getting a lot of shots into the noble but not killing him, getting these Silver Helms off but not killing them. Now, these Illyrian Reavers are trying to force path through the miners that force the cannons off, but then they're going to go over to this side. On this, now you're going to see the front line is going to start to collapse. We got another Rune of Wrath and Ruin on these guys, but here is the danger. This is always the real struggle for the Dawi. It's how long can the front line hold, and because it's not going to hold forever against the High Elves. So now in comes the White Lions of Trace. These guys are going to start to struggle, and the White Lions are going to be able to come around this side. Does have a heal going off these White Lions, and now it's time to focus fire and try and get all the right targets. Get these guys on the right target. He wants to get the heck out of dodge, which is true with his Troll Hammers. He wants to get back in with his Dragonback Slayers. Anything to stop these guys so the Troll Hammers can get out. And you can see these Illyrian Reavers have got to the other side. The miners are going into chase to try and get to these Illyrian Reavers, and the cannon is actually going to come and get back online. This Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower is still firing away. We've got here, these Dwarf Warriors are coming back, but now this part of the line is absolutely collapsed. Now we have 5 units of infantry into the Dawi backline. The Rune Lord has been taking out this archers. Like, this is a perfect job for the Rune Lord. He can go and fight these guys all day without taking any damage at all. And same with the Runesmith. He's in here fighting. He was fighting, actually, Spearmen. In come the blasting charges, so he has brought these guys up to help support. Gone the blasting charges and the Spearmen. and then he's going to come up to fight the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower in this back line, just doing everything he can to stop these guys. He's getting a rear charge from these White Lions of Trace now, and he's got these Slayers sort of in, and he's now got this cannon back online, and these, unfortunately, this freaking Noble is come up back, and now he's going to go after the cannon. I don't know if he's going to get a shot. He's trying to get his cannon up there to get a shot on this Noble, but I don't think he's going to get there. And now he has to come back with everything to chase it. Nope, he doesn't, unfortunately. And meanwhile, the Dwarf front line has absolutely collapsed on this side. Everything is sort of moved to this way. You can see in come the Miners, now that they've used their blasting charges up against the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, which is a perfect place for them to go. And now this part of the line is sort of resolving. It's okay, we got a set of guns there with Thunders, but in come these Spearmen to try and shut them down. These Iron Drakes are online. He really wants to get them shooting. He wants to get these Thunders back. This freaking Noble has actually done a lot of damage. Got this cannon, unfortunately, routed this cannon again, but he is going to come back and be able to get back online. These Iron Drakes, we just have one Iron Drake. He is ready to fight. Oh, Dowie leadership is so amazing, and we've actually been able to push off some of the White Lions, but they're going to come back. We've got the Thunders that are actually pushed up in the way. These White Lions of Trace are now going to take some damage. They've got some targeting on them, really pushing these guys out, getting some damage done. These Thunders are still online. Unfortunately, they're getting attacked by the Spearmen. The Miners with blasting charges, they're so great for just when they're done, they can go after artillery, stuff like that, and they're going to do just fine up here. The Runesmith now wants to come back and slow down the White Lions of Trace. This whole pocket here is now really the Dragonback Slayer's job is just to hold, and we've got the Goblobber in here shooting against the White Lions of Trace. You can see they really do a number on their leadership. I mean, they brought them down to 10 leadership. They got damaged by artillery and discouraged by ability. Minus 26 leadership. And unfortunately, though, they're going to get in a rear charge on these Iron Drakes, so he's going to try and get his Iron Drakes back out of the way and replace them with the Slayers. The Slayers are... One thing Slayers are really good at is just holding, because they will keep holding. You can see these Dragonback Slayers are holding forever. Now goes the Star of Avalorn again. We've got this Rune Lord who has pushed everything off on this side. These Dwarf Warriors are fighting over here. Everything over here now really doesn't matter. You know, with the amount of resources that we have committed over here is just fine. The fight is over here. Really, it is just making sure to focus down these White Lions of Trace. I mean, there's a lot of models left. 46 here. We got 24. We got 13. But the Dragonback Slayers are doing a great job of sort of holding them down. Got another Rune of Wrath and Rune in here to hold them down. We've got the Thunders just on this side and our one Iron Drake right here. These Iron Drakes are trying to get onto the other side. These White Lions of Trace got the Hammer of Carrick draws with minus 44 melee attack. They essentially have 0 melee attack. And in comes the Rune Lord. Way in the back line, these two rowdy units have actually... both rallied, and now the Thunders are shooting into the Spearmen, but they're really going to have a hard time holding up against the Spearmen. They're just not very many, but they're going to shoot right to the bitter end. You can see everything in here is actually starting to shatter. You know, once things start to go, they start to go really fast. So really fun and interesting game for the builds, the deployment, and the way zachbsain used his artillery in this game and how he protected them. So I'll go look at the end plates now. I wanted to talk about the artillery first. Now, the cannon and the Goblobber are the two artillery that zachbsain brought. I know that Yumeis likes 2 cannons, and Aroka Boss likes 2 bolt throwers. I have 2 gyrocopters. You know, it depends on how you want to play and what you want to do. But he did a good job of protecting with these 2 miners. And 44 and 20 kills. Like, that is pretty good for a unit that's worth 325 gold, so quite impressive. We know miners are sort of like the Dowie version of anti-large, the cheap anti-large. They do reasonably well against a lot of Cav because they have that armor piercing, and Cav generally have low melee defense. 50 kills with the miners with blasting charges. Did really good to get off their blasting charges in the front line and then go after the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Now, as far as, again, the leader, the Rune Lord and the Runesmith, zachbsain did a really good job of getting them to the right engagements. And, you know, this is something you always got to be careful, especially in this fight, that you don't get your Rune Lord and your Runesmith stuck up with Swordmasters or White Lions of Trace, because they will chew through them. But if there's a Spearman out there archers, they're perfect. They can just go fight them all day. If they want to fight a Lariel wants to come and scrap them, fine. They can fight all day long. Now, for the front line, the 5 Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, 12, 12, 3, 21, and 77. Hard to say which is the right way to do this. Now, this is Yumei's front line as well, and I'm actually thinking of moving to a front line of Dwarf Warriors with great weapons as well, because you don't really need the shields in this matchup, to be honest, because when the High Elves bring archers, they're really going after Slayers. I have a group of Giant Slayers in my build. I'm thinking of bringing the Dragonback Slayers into my build because they're a little bit more missile resistant, and you can see they performed extremely well in here, not only against the cavalry, the chariots, but holding up the line, taking in some shots from those archers did really, really good. And even the base Slayers did not too bad, 80 kills, and they were still around at the end. 18 and 14 for the Thunders. Now, they didn't get a whole lot in, but they really were an area of focus for this High Elf army. And, they did focus on sort of some big targets like the Nobles. And the real feature of the Dowie versus Chariots is the Iron Drakes with Trollhammer torpedoes. Not only did they absolutely demolish the Nobles on the Chariots, they also got 77 and 26 kills to boot. 16 with the cannon and 15 with the Gobblobber. The Gobblobber did use all its ammo up, which was actually really, really good. So, might actually be... It's hard to say. Now, when you look at the way this Gobblobber actually did against the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, it didn't take the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower out. So it used a lot of ammo on that Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and it just didn't work out. I always wonder myself, should I counter battery? Should I just go after high value targets? Would it have been better for that Gobblobber just to be going after White Lions and staying on them the whole time, and the cannons just to stay on the cavalry, and that's that? Hard to say, but it seems like, I know the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, it has 380 range and it has 50 accuracy. The cannon has, I believe, 30 or 40, and the Gobblobber will have 10 less than the cannon. It's something like that. So the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower is very, very good for actually counter battery because it's able to snipe out artillery quite nicely. So that's why High Elf and Dark Elf Bolt Throwers tended to relatively good in that, because they have better accuracy than Dowie artillery. There's no Dowie artillery that can match them in terms of accuracy, though the Dowie artillery does have the range. So I never know whether to actually counter battery. That's why I've sort of just taken myself out of that decision by replacing my artillery with 2 gyrocopters, and the gyrocopters I can just run around, and they tend to be more micro intensive, and I can have my problems with them, but they're not too bad. I do quite enjoy them. So really love the build and the performance of this army. Now for the High Elf army, Galariel, 17 kills and Nobles, 42, and this guy only got 4. He absolutely got obliterated, and that was with really what did the job was 1 Thunder, 1 Iron Drake. So it's interesting. They really did the job in that 1 Noble. 26, 27, and 19 with the Spearmen. For a 500 gold unit, Spearmen are pretty decent. A lot of High Elf players do like to bring them. I can see that maybe being a one of, but it is what it is. 49, 60, 107, 43, and 61. The White Lions trace were awesome. They're always awesome in this matchup. They're very strong against the Dowie. 9 and 5 for the archers. I always think one archer is all you need. If you're going to be able to get 1 archer into position and go from there, and probably Sisters of Avalorn I think is a good pick for the High Elves as well. But that's because I play gyrocopters, and Sisters of Avalorn are crushing against gyrocopters, but they're also very good against hammers. They're excellent against Iron Drakes. So I think that really Sisters of Avalorn is probably a very strong pick for the High Elves, but you see them sometimes, sometimes you don't. They're really expensive. Illyrian Reavers and Silverhelms, I don't know. I think they're hard to use against the Dowie. And the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower is 0 kills, so I don't exactly understand how it got 0 kills. Maybe I know it was shooting at the Runesmith and the Rune Lord for a little while, and maybe it was shooting at the Goblobber, but the Goblobber had lots of health, so I'm not really sure exactly what this is shooting at, but obviously not infantry. Anyways, love this game and love the build and the take on the build and sort of the idea, and man, these miners performed in that back line. When the Cav came in and charged on the artillery and not on the miners, really, really impressive how the miners did there. 44 and 20 kills. Like, that's 60 kills on Silverhelms and on Illyrian Reavers and you know, some random units that came and got into the back there. So really, really strong there. And 50 kills for the miners blasting charges. Just excellent, excellent performance in this matchup. So anyways, I would love to hear from you. I do have more games I'm going to be casting from zachbsain. He sent me a bunch, and I love his builds. Really interesting sort of playstyle as well to boot. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy his Dowie games. And I mean, I just watched him in a best of 7 on Turn's channel. If you go and watch zachbsain, won that, I think 4-1. Really, really nice builds, fun builds, and excellent play. So a really strong player, and he's sending me some of his Dowie replays, which I really genuinely appreciate, because, you know, that's all I do is Dowie stuff, dwarf stuff, and these are really fun builds and interesting builds, and I love seeing every dwarf build, no matter what, and how it performs. So I'd also be interested in hearing from you. I always ask for comments because I really love comments. You know, it's my favorite part of doing this, is that interaction at the bottom of the video, getting to hear from you guys about what you thought of the build and the performance and the idea of the dwarf warriors with great weapons in that front line. I actually would love to hear from you with what you guys think about dwarf warriors with great weapons in the lineup. Umaze has them in his build and his awesome online dwarf multiplayer guide. I'm thinking of changing to them. You can see zachbsain has put them on. You know, they didn't last, but they got some damage in on those white lions, you know. So did they get enough value out of that front line? I don't know. But anyways, I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments. That said, I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you soon.